On the 9th of June 2026. Let's start with the opening prayer. Almighty God, we seek your blessing and guidance in our deliberations on behalf of the people of the Colac Otway Shire. Enable this council's decisions to be those that contribute to the true welfare and betterment of our community. Amen. I'd like to start this afternoon by acknowledging the traditional custodians and lawmakers of this land, their elders past and present. Please be advised that this meeting is recorded and live streamed with the exception of confidential matters. This includes the public participation sections of meetings. The live stream recording of this afternoon's meeting will be available on the website as soon as practicable. By participating in open meetings, individuals consent to the use and disclosure of the information they share at the meeting, including any personal and/or sensitive information. I note that all councillors are present with the exception of Councillor Hudgell, who is an apology for today's meeting. Move to item 3.3, the confirmation of minutes. I propose that we move to confirm the minutes of the Submissions Committee meeting held on the 12th of May 2026. Do I have a mover? Councillor Potter. Have a seconder? Councillor McCrickard. Have a motion before us. Councillors will now put to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Motion is carried 6-0. Thanks, councillors. Move on to declarations of interest. Are there any? Councillor Buchanan.
Thanks, Mayor. I have a declaration of interest in 260 Warrawi Road. I think it's 4.1.
5.3.
Correction. Thanks, Mayor.
Just got to state whether it's a general or material conflict.
Conflict is the applicant is my son and daughter-in-law to the excision of a house on 260 Warrawi Road.
Thank you. Good enough. Are there any other declarations of interest? No. We'll move on now to the verbal submissions from submitters. Council appreciates the community's submissions on today's agenda item and values the effort put into both written and in-person contributions. Councillors review all submissions thoroughly and find them very useful. Today, people can restate or highlight parts of their submissions. I'll now read the names of registered speakers. Please raise your hand when your name is called. For item 5.1, Graham Costin online. He's there. Michael Dennis Strait. No. Jenny Evans. No. Karen McLaughlin. Present. Dan McQuinn. Tamika O'Shea. Anne O'Connor. No. Item 5.2, the draft budget, Murray Dowdy. Online, thank you. Graham Costin's already here. Jess Dorney. Thank you. Jamie Clark. No. Jane Gross. No. Item 5.3, Tracy Simmons. Luke Buchanan. Thank you. We'll now move on to the officer reports on the agenda. Item 5.1, the draft road upgrade policy submissions. We have seen who is speaking that is here today. Firstly, online, I invite Graham Costin to speak. You have 5 minutes max. I'll give you a warning at 4. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, councillors. I'm Graham Costin. I'm speaking today on behalf of the Skeens Creek Association. And thank you for the opportunity to speak to our submission. And we take this opportunity to thank Councillor Potter for attending our annual general meeting last month. In general, we support the draft policy in principle and very much welcome the tabular summary of submissions included in today's agenda papers. However, we believe there's two significant gaps in the draft policy that should be addressed to ensure that smaller townships like Skeens Creek that continue to rely on gravel roads and open drains are not disadvantaged. The first gap is the impact of dust from gravel roads in urban areas. In the Skeens Creek community, road dust is one of the most frequently raised concerns. The constant haze of dust in the drier months diminishes our neighbourhood character, increases household cleaning costs, impacts on our native vegetation, and contributes to health issues, particularly for older residents and those with respiratory conditions such as asthma. While the policy rationale and many of the submissions, I note, acknowledge the environmental health and safety impacts of road dust, those impacts are not explicitly reflected in the proposed weighted scoring system. If reducing dust is a genuine objective of the policy, we believe these impacts should be clearly recognised and assigned a defined weighting within the prioritisation framework. The second gap is the impact of open drains along roadsides in urban areas, noting that these drains generally accompany gravel roads. The open drains often contain stagnant water for many months of the year and create higher ongoing maintenance costs for council and a range of environmental and health impacts for our community. Constantly wet drains weaken the road pavements. They encourage the spread of invasive weeds such as agapanthus, broom and pampas grass. They provide a habitat for mosquitoes and rats and snakes, and they contribute to the poor water quality in downstream swimming areas mostly used by children. Despite these impacts, open drains, roadside open drains in urban areas do not appear to be considered within the draft policy. I'd like to remind councillors that before amalgamation, going back in history, the former Otway Shire had quite an active program of upgrading urban gravel roads and open drains. Under that program, in Skeens Creek, Bass Crescent, Ozone Street, Surf Avenue were constructed and sealed, and underground drainage was installed. There were similar upgrades in Kennet River and Wye River. Since the formation of Colac Otway Shire, I'm not aware of any gravel road upgrades in these coastal towns, despite the continued housing growth, increased rates, increased traffic volumes, and the ongoing community concerns. So to summarise, we're asking that the final policy prioritisation framework explicitly recognise and assign weightings for the amenity, environmental, financial, health and safety impacts of dust from gravel roads in urban areas, and also for roadside open drains in urban areas. We believe these inclusions would create a fairer and more transparent prioritisation framework, giving communities such as ours at Skeens Creek the confidence that the impacts of gravel roads and open drains are being properly recognised in the policy. So thank you for considering our submission. We appreciate Council's effort to establish a more strategic, transparent and consistent approach to road upgrading, and we look forward to seeing these matters that we've raised reflected in the final policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. I'll just check again. Michael Dennis Strait hasn't turned up. No. Jenny Evans. No. I'll now call.
I'm happy to answer any
Karen.
questions, Mayor.
No. Thanks, Graham. If you could just whack yourself on mute now, that'd be. Thank you. Karen McLaughlin. Thank you. Yeah, just come up to the fore. Yeah, thanks. Jill will get you.
Thanks, Mayor, for having me here and all the councillors. I live on Fryers Road, Gellibrand. We've had a house there for well over 35 years now. We moved permanently to a house at 20 Fries Road 20 years ago. Since then, we've had, in 2017, we had a rollover and a 16-year-old young girl was killed. We also had another rollover and I had someone walking up our driveway, absolutely dazed and lost. There's been several runoffs on this particular curve that they lose control and they just run into the bush and hit trees. Trucks, cars, it's happened many, many times. The impact on the neighbours and myself, having been called to administer CPR, was pretty traumatic. Don't want to do that again. The road's corrugated with a loose surface, making it almost impossible to brake safely. Should there be, like we've had deers come across the road, we've had kangaroos come across the road, that's me personally, and the neighbours I spoke to this morning also have seen many deer jump out in front of them. You just can't stop in a hurry if you're going downhill on this particular curve. The curve I'm talking about is below 20 Fries Road driveway. It's quite a broad turn and you can't see around the corner. Could be anything there. Another drama is the added use of trucks by AKD. Obviously, as recovery from the fires, there've been a massive amount of trucks and vehicles go up. They're now clearing another pine plantation on Bull Hill Road, but they're still using Fries Road as a thoroughfare. And it has quite an impact when you have so many heavy vehicles coming up and down a dirt road. Speed's the biggest factor, I think. After the fatality on Fries Road, there was one sign. I think it was like a zigzag sign saying you're going to slip on the road. But there's no speed restrictions. There's no obstacles to travelling at speed that are obvious. And a lot of people come from Forest now. They use Ridge Road, then come down Fries Road. They're often tourists. They have no idea how to drive on a dirt road. And the two major ones that I've been involved with, they were not locals. So they've come down the hill, zooming along, full pelt, hit the corner, spun out, rolled over. And it's really, really horrendous. I'd just like to see Fries Road sealed up to the AKD driveways. I think that would be the safest bet. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your submission, Karen.
Thanks.
So, I'll just check Dan McQueen.
Sorry?
No, you're all right.
Can go?
Thank you. Tamika O'Shea hasn't turned up. Anne O'Connor? No. Thank you. That concludes our submissions for item 5.1, councillors. There's an officer recommendation in the report. Does any councillor wish to move that as the motion? Councillor Potter? To be seconded. Councillor Howard? Councillor Potter is the mover. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to thank the submitters for giving up their time to provide clear and articulate points of view and submissions to this strategy.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Howard is the seconder. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to thank the submitters for their time and effort in putting in their submissions. And also I agree that this draft strategy is a very important one for council and was a gap in our strategies, and I welcome us to finalise this process, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillor? No, we have a motion before us. Councillors will now put it to a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Motion is carried 6-0. Thanks, councillors. We'll move on to item 5.2, 2026-27 draft budget community submissions, round 2. Well, Jess, if you want to go first with the 3 little ones there, you might want to shoot off early. Do you need a hand?
No, it's all good. Thanks.
All good? Thank you.
Okay. I didn't actually even get a chance to relook at my submission, and to be honest, it was something that I have. I know I spoke to you, Councillor Sharam, last year about over the phone. And firstly, I'd just like to thank you all, councillors and the exec team, for opening, having this part of democracy and opening up the budget process. It's really important and something I decided to drive over from Apollo Bay with 3 children for. So my first submission was just around walkability in Apollo Bay. As someone who walks a lot, I also ride a bike a lot as well, but I walk with children in a pram. And so I kind of represent people in wheelchairs, people using prams, people that have mobility issues, older community. We have an ageing community. The accessibility in terms of networks that connect community infrastructure are quite poor still in Apollo Bay. And I think that with the right approach and actually using the people who use those spaces a lot, there's small fixes can make a really big impact. Particularly like Nelson Street is one of the an area where you can access a lot of facilities, particularly if you live in the top end of the town. And there's no footpath either side of that at the moment, and I'm forced with children either on a bike. Is she okay? Oh, no, she wants me. She wants me, sweet. Thank you. You hop up here, Ed. You hop up here. Sorry. Okay. You didn't want to go to Ava. Forced onto the road with... Yeah, you're safe. Oh, your shoe. Sorry. Okay, right. Sorry. Your shoe. Forced onto that road with trucks and cars and... Yeah, so particularly like Nelson Street is one of the big ones. But there's just something that I would really love to see is councillors coming down and doing a walkability audit, like advertising with people in wheelchairs, with people with prams, and actually understanding those key routes and how we can improve, like just using funds strategically. I'm not saying I know there's not a big budget for something like this. But yeah, I really appreciate, Mayor, that you said last year that you were really looking at spending this infrastructure this year for Apollo Bay, or looking, not actually saying you were going to do it, but it was something that we felt that could be looked at more this year rather than when you all first started and were getting your head around things. So yeah, I think that's end of my first one. I don't even know how long I've got to talk, to be honest.
Well, you got 2 more minutes.
I've got 2 more minutes.
You had shade sales and the information screen.
Okay, yeah. So shade sales is, basically, again, perspective of being a parent over summer, the playgrounds, you absolutely bake in the sun. I know that there was a policy quite a few years ago, like I'm talking 10 plus years ago, or not actually a policy, but just a directive that shade sales were quite dangerous for the community for risk of impalement or something. That was, an officer told me that quite a few years ago now. And I know, like, Colac, like the main playground in Colac, has a beautiful tree shade covering, and that canopy is lovely, and that's obviously like the ultimate in shade protection in a playground, and it provides a much more natural aesthetic environment than a shade sail. But at the same time, this is a risk to health. Like, skin cancer rates are like, I don't even know what the rates are, but it's a big issue. And I know that you need to audit playgrounds, but how are you actually assessing the health impacts of being exposed to the sun all the time? You know, kids love to be at the playground, and particularly around swings where you're kind of pushing all the time. I don't know why they seem to be the most exposed, like where you've actually got to sort of sit there or stand there and push. But yeah, so I think shade sails or looking at canopy tree, strategically placed, and with the walkability stuff as well, that's looking, I did want to mention tree shade through those routes as well, particularly the west facing routes where you're exposed to the sun during summer, and it just really, you're just really exposed to the elements. So they were my two submissions. And the other one was just a question on what funding went into creating that information screen, which I got the answer for. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Cool.
I thought I was going to have to evict the first gallery member there before, but he's under control.
All right. I wasn't told that online was an option. So, yeah, hence we're here. But it's fine. Kids have got a good experience of what it means to contribute.
Thank you. I'll now ask online Murray. Just when you're ready, just unmute yourself. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Mayor, councillors, staff of Colac Otway Shire and members of the gallery, thank you for the opportunity to present to you today for the inclusion of funding for the revitalisation of Harrington Park in Wye River in the 26-27 budget. My name is Murray Doughty. I'm representing Greg Hocking, President of the Wye River and Separation Creek Community Association, and the people of our communities. I noticed that, I think that I've been scheduled to speak twice about Harrington Park, and I'm happy to do so, but I think I can save us all 5 minutes and cover our thoughts now. After our first submission, we launched a petition for the Colac Otway Shire to allocate funding in the upcoming budget for the refurbishing of the Harrington Park picnic area. The 131 plus signatures on the petition were collected at the CFA Easter Fete, the community evenings at the Wye River Hotel, and via our webpage. It is a result of community consultation, firstly through informal conversations to gauge community opinion, then more formally through the community forum presentation and Q&A session where we requested feedback, and then social media and web-based interaction. The response has been enthusiastic and highly supportive of the idea to resurface the existing playing area with a low-maintenance multi-purpose surface suitable for many family-friendly games such as pickleball and foursquare in a horizontal mural, and to improve the sheltered area with better access, fit-for-purpose barbecue facilities and fixed furniture on low-maintenance paving. But there was also a degree of community frustration that the park has been allowed to fall into such a state of neglect. When I say that the area is unusable, I don't mean that the petanque surface falls slightly short of the standard for international competition. I mean the park is unusable. In December, the CFA had to request council slash the entire park because the grass was knee-high and a fire hazard. When we needed a public recreation area immediately post-flood, the petanque piste had uneven clumps of vegetation shin-high in places covering the surface. With the Christmas and Easter CFA fates, the surface was still so uneven as to be unusable. And these are for the annual publicised events. For any spontaneous community or family use, the park is too much of a snake haven. This is in complete contrast to the community garden area, which is solely maintained by local volunteers and is cared for with pride. So irregular has the maintenance been in the remainder of the park that it would now be comparable in cost to reinstate the existing surface and include an allowance for proper regular maintenance with the cost of resurfacing the playing area with the low maintenance mural multi-purpose sports surface. It is a project that can be staged, but with the rehabilitation of the playing surface as a priority. It's not an unreasonable expectation that council-owned parks should be maintained to a fit-for-purpose standard. It's an obligation and a responsibility, neither of which has been met here for quite some time. The status quo is unacceptable. The slashing, mowing, a granulated stone surface is not only ridiculous, but only perpetuates and consolidates the degradation. I recently went on a bike ride along the Murray to Mountains Trail from Wangaratta to Bright. Along the trail, each of the small towns' public facilities and parks and gardens were beautifully looked after and expressed a real civic pride. I realise the bike trail is a well-known tourist destination, but it's not in the same league as the Great Ocean Road. I came home to wide Harrington Park to find a section of the handrail lying in the grass, a tree down, some large fallen branches lying in the park. And I did call to notify the council. The Great Ocean Road Trail is a priority of Gore Kappa and has a published ambition to attract 75,000 walkers each year to the path. The section from Jamison Creek to Kennet River is now open. This includes the townships of both Y and Sep. The path presses against the YCFA, immediately the other side of which is Harrington Park. So this park is now more than just a recreation space for us locals, but for an anticipated influx of slow tourist traffic. Hence our petition that funding for the revitalisation of Harrington Park picnic facilities be included in the 26-27 budget. On behalf of our communities, I thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Murray, for your submission. Thank you. I'll now go to online. Graham Costin. Just unmute when you're ready.
Thanks, Mayor. Yes, I'm still Graham Costin, and I'm representing the Skeens Creek Community Association. Our submission focuses on 4 budget priorities that we believe will improve community amenity, the environmental outcomes and public safety, not just in Skeens Creek, but also in other small townships across the Shire, including Wye River. The first issue is seeking improved maintenance of our public reserves and open spaces. Just like the community of Wye River, our community, residents and visitors, also highly values our public open spaces, such as the Skeens Creek Valley Picnic Reserve and our coastal reserves. These are important for community well-being and tourism and environment protection. Our community has been increasingly concerned about the declining maintenance standards in these reserves, including long grass, weed growth, dumped rubbish, and deteriorating picnic facilities. And we ask that Council provide more recurrent funding to maintain these public open spaces to a safe, consistent and attractive standard. The second priority we raised was improved roadside weed control in the urban areas. Roadside weed infestation continues to be a growing problem, pardon the pun, throughout Skeens Creek, particularly along gravel roads such as Skeens Creek Valley Road, Motts Lane, Old Coach Road, and along those inland strips of the Great Ocean Road where Council is responsible for roadside maintenance within urban areas. The invasive coastal weeds within these reserves obstruct the water flow in drains. They cause ponding of stagnant water and provide, again, as I mentioned before, provide a habitat for mosquitoes, rats and snakes. They also act as a seed bank for the spread of invasive weeds onto adjoining properties and into downstream coastal reserves, and that's a particular concern of Gore Kappa. We ask Council to increase its funding for urban roadside weed management and also to work with local landholders and community groups such as Landcare and our local association to assist in this important work, because we're more than happy to do so if there is some leadership shown from Council. The third priority is more frequent maintenance and upgrading of gravel roads and open drains. As I said before, road dust is one of our most frequently raised concerns within the community. I won't go into all the problems that it causes, but we ask Council to increase its recurrent funding for roadside grading and resheeting programs and the upgrade of drainage and culverts. And we ask Council to consider dust suppression measures during dry periods and to target some gravel road upgrades. Finally, a very simple one, we're asking Council to install 2 road signs marking the Old Coach Road Hickey's Cutting Link Trail. The Old Coach Road Hickey's Cutting walking loop has proved very popular with both residents and visitors. It's about 6 kilometres long, takes about 2 hours walking through native trees, It's got outstanding views across Bass Strait. However, the bush link linking Old Coach Road to Hickey's Cutting is difficult to find for those unfamiliar with the trail. As a result, many of those walkers who are unfamiliar with the area end up walking along the much busier and much less safe Skins Creek Forest Road, where they're squeezed in between. Sorry?
Yeah, just got 1 minute. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. Where they're squeezed in between the traffic and the guardrail. A small council investment in 2 road signs marking this link would greatly improve the walking experience and pedestrian safety. So just to summarise, we're asking council to increase its funding for public open space maintenance, expand its roadside weed control and drainage maintenance programs, improve its gravel road and drainage maintenance, and consider strategic upgrades of urban gravel roads, and to install 2 road signs marking the Old Coach Road, Hickey's Cutting link trail. Thank you, councillors, for considering our budget submission, and I'm happy to answer any question councillors may have.
Thank you. Thanks for your submission, Graham. That's it. Just checking Jamie Clark. No, Jane Gross. No. Thank you. That concludes all the submissions. Thanks, councillors, on item 5.2, the draft budget. Have an officer recommendation in the report. Does any council wish to move that as a motion? Councillor McCrickard, to be seconded. Councillor, did I see someone? Councillor, they're both half. Councillor Howard. Thanks, Councillor McCrickard as the mover. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to thank the submitters. Excuse me, Skeens Creek and Wire River submissions are very practical and well presented. And I think one of the privileges of being on council is listening to the submissions. And when you have a young mother from Apollo Bay come up with some wonderful practical ideas, not just for herself but for the community, I think that's quite inspiring. So thank you all, and I wish you well. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Howard as the seconder.
Yeah, again, I can't iterate enough how the effort that people put into submissions and the time taking to come over and deliver them, or even being online. It is an effort, and it's a good effort, because, you know, they're trying to represent their communities and represent their priorities. So we do take it very seriously, and we do really appreciate people putting in their submissions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? No? We have a motion before us, councillors. We'll now put it to a vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Buchanan, Councillor Dew, Councillor McCricker, Councillor Howard, Councillor Schramm. Motion is carried 6-0. Before we move on to item 5.3, I must apologise. I have to leave. I have a prior commitment that I must attend to. So I apologise to the submitters of the next item, but I'll hand over to our Deputy Mayor, Councillor Phil Howard, to take over the remainder of the meeting. Thank you.
So we're moving to item 5.3. We have a conflict of interest. Can you restate your conflict, please?
Yes, my son and and daughter-in-law are the owners of the property in question on 260 Warrawowie Road, so I have a conflict.
Thank you, Councillor Buchanan. You now leave the room. So now we move to item 5.3, PP4/2026-1, 260 Warrawowie Road, Illawarra. If I pronounce that wrong, I'm still learning all these names. We have two people who have requested to speak to their submission, so I will invite Tracy Simmons to the microphone. Tracy, you have 5 minutes, and I'll warn you with 1 minute to go.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, executive council members. I understand that 5 minutes is not enough for a thorough review of the planning application for my clients, Luke and Michelle Buchanan, under my consultancy PAR Planning. To begin, I want to use this valuable time to express my gratitude to the councillors and their willingness to take on the extra delegation work of the past 12 months in supporting rural ratepayers. As a planning consultant, I speak with many local farmers and community members, including those within the industry and commercial sectors of the Shire. It is evident that there is a sense of optimism regarding the positive changes taking place, driven by each one of you, and thank you. For me, you received 2 detailed emails last night, one outlining the detailed planning policy review, another with supporting documents and a copy of our responses to the single objection from the Culverts, owners of the neighbouring bakery. If you haven't had a chance to read, please do so. Not only is it important for you to have a well-rounded, detailed information that we drafted for this planning application, but also to help you with the applications you decide upon in the future. Evidence was sent that clearly shows that Section 173 agreements were removed in the planning scheme farming subdivision clause by the Planning Minister themselves more than 13 years ago. Nonetheless, this council planning continues to impose such restrictive encumbrances on farmers and rural landowners and land titles. The only ones benefiting are the lawyers that get paid by your ratepayers, many not even understanding the restrictions and long-term impacts to the farms and the expensive cost to have them removed, and only if council planning allows. For my client's planning application, we are seeking your support for farming family succession planning. I believe this is the best way to ensure the ongoing productivity of agriculture and to support rural communities. In short, without farmers, there is no agriculture to protect or produce. And why the culvert objection needs to be dismissed. They rescinded our invitation for a consultation meeting at council, but have not withdrawn their objection, and I'm not seeing them with a submission today. A letter to their objection clearly outlined there is no substance or valid cause to their objection now, nor was there 7 years ago. And again, with no other objections other than a large and widespread community support and appreciation for the Buchanans fully restoring the circa 1910 former farmhouse that ironically pertains back to the objecting culvert's early descendants. The Buchanan planning application distinctly presents a revised subdivision layout in accordance with the planning scheme that has undergone substantial changes since the Buchanan's previous application and the VCAT decision more than 5 years ago. The objector's ongoing statement that our planning application to create an existing dwelling lot will impact agriculture. Well, the dwelling hasn't for the last 116 years. Is an oxymoron and rationale to their neighbouring industrial-sized bakery operations within the same farming zone under the same planning controls as the Buchanans. They and the Council Planning Department are asking you to consider the prior VCAT case. However, it is important to note that huge amendments in the planning scheme have occurred since then. For one, we now have an overwhelming emphasis on developing housing while prioritising the preservation of existing resources, including retaining existing houses. In the words of the Planning Minister, it is imperative for every zone, including the farming zone, to contribute to the supply of housing stock. A recent example, allowing the use and development of second small dwellings on the farming zone that now don't even need planning approval. subject to conditions.
1 more minute, Tracy.
The Council Planning Department's dependence on the outdated VCAT decision reveals a clear lack of substantial policy within the planning scheme, including their own policies to justify a refusal. In contrast, us at Planet Planning, we have submitted and sent to each of you extensive planning policy review and report and supporting documents that strongly supports this planning application for approval and planning permit, and clearly shows why the removal of Section 173 agreements need to be removed. The Buchanan's planning application farm lot is 80 hectares. They manage a total of 518 hectares of agricultural land in the Colac Otway. They are definitely contributing significantly to agriculture both in the Shire and state. The proposed 3.2 hectares with an existing dwelling is a dot in comparison to their overall farm operations, and yet giving an opportunity for the next generation of Buchanans to invest in home ownership and remain close in supporting the family farm operations. We appreciate your time today and we request your approval for this planning application and ensuring that Section 173 agreement is not incorrectly applied as a permit condition. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tracy. Now I'll call on Luke to come up. Luke, you have 5 minutes and I'll give you a warning in the last minute.
Thank you. Yes, like Tracy, thanks councillors for your time today and a chance to speak. Along with my wife Michelle, you can hear me all right there. Along with my wife Michelle, the owners of the subject property are both born and bred Colac people, both from ex-farming families. We purchased our home place at 205 Warrawi Road, Durrawara, consisting of 85 acres in 1999. At this stage, we'd been running our own farm contracting business, started in 1995. To increase our farming and farm contracting business further, we have since the early 2000s leased over 1,000 acres extra annually, which obviously increased cattle numbers and fodder production. In 2018, we were successful in the purchase of 260 Warrawi Road, consisting of 200 acres and a place of residence on the property. The purchase of this property was notable on the lines of it being adjoining to our home property, but also adjoining 264 acres of lease property. This allowed us to farm over 540 acres as a home base, along with other lease blocks continuing, allowing us to expand our business a bit further with more increases in cattle numbers and extra fodder production. Our farming business has had the capacity to employ 2 full-time workers most years, along with up to 4 casual co-workers during harvest. I hope this has briefly explained that we are a real local farming family that's had to find ways to expand its operation or be left behind over the years. Since the time of purchase of the subject property, with a home of historic value, we have invested farming money into improvements on the existing house at the expense of farm improvements at times, but still an expensive but worthwhile cause. With 4 sons of our own, we've had a farm succession plan in place since the purchase of the neighbouring 200 acres in 2018, with an option for a family member or members to continue a successful local farming business and keep expanding with the times. The chance to be able to gain an entry point to farming for younger people, let alone buy a house, has always and continues to be a hard scenario, especially in our district. The house located on smaller acreage would be a way a younger person can invest in the business to start off their financial commitment and future expansion. Not only being on site to daily operations, it's also a chance of living/starting a family in a great location, walking distance to local sporting clubs and off-farm employment opportunities at 2 major factories on Warrawi Road and 5 minutes drive from Colac Central, and also adding another valued ratepayer to the Shire. With this brief description of our farm succession plan, the advantage of being able to have the next generation involved is exciting, knowing there is a chance for them to capitalise on our hard work so far and continue a family farming legacy, which can only be a positive outcome for our Shire. So yes, farming does have its challenges financially with seasonal conditions, rising input costs, rising because with 65% of farming families having at least one family member working off farm these days, my wife Michelle working full-time at Trinity College, along with invoicing, paperwork and various other business jobs, knows all about it. But we realise we're not the first farmers in the district trying to capitalise on a second home based on family expansion of a local farming business. We believe as a productive farming family, we are trying to go forward for all the right reasons with this application for subdivision, in particular farm succession. So I can only thank you for your time to speak again today and for your efforts on an on-site meeting last week. Thanks, councillors.
Thank you, Luke. We have a motion before us. Does any councillor wish to move a motion in relation to this item? Councillor McCrickard. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Potter. Councillor McCrickard.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you both for your submission. Again, a lot of effort has been put into the words that you've chosen so wisely, and we've listened, and congratulate you on the work that you're doing in the district, Luke, and Michelle as well, and the 4 boys. And we wish you well for the future. Thank you.
Councillor Potter. Councillors, I will now call a vote. All those in favour, Councillor Potter, Councillor Dadoud, Councillor McCrickard, Councillor Howard, that's 4-0. Thank you. So that concludes the submission committee meeting of the Colac Otway Shire. What's that? Oh, right. Can you grab Councillor Buchanan? Thank you. Welcome back, Councillor. I forgot about you, but Councillor Potter reminded me. So that concludes the submission committee meeting of the Colac Otway Shire. I declare this meeting closed at, anyone got it there? 2:17. Thank you very much.